Okay, I am here, right here. I am here with my first interview with author Linda A Lavid. Wasn't sure about the A, but I added it in there. And let's bring her in, and we're going to talk about being an author, writing. Going to ask her a bunch of questions. Here she comes. Hello, welcome. Say
Hello,
say
hello.
hello to your
Whoa,
fans out there. Whoa.
light
Okay.
bulb, light bulb wave. No. Okay.
Okay. So let's put up the list that I made up here, a little PDF of questions that'll pop in. And I'm not sure what my intent was with that page, but basically to mention that you do have books on Amazon, KDP, and Kindle. You also have some stories on Vella, right? Your
Yes.
your price range seems to go from $1 to about $7. That's about right.
Well, for the Kindle,
No, for the for Kindle. Mm-hmm.
yeah. The paperbacks are a little more expensive, but I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything more than 15.
Oh, okay. And you do have art as well, but that's an interview for another time, right?
Another time.
Okay. And as everybody probably knows who reads books on Amazon, that any book practically you can read the first page or something sometimes. So you do have a little
Right.
free example of your writing in a lot of places, as
Yeah.
well
Whenever you go, right. Hmm.
as well as on Vella, where you get 3 whole episodes, at least 1,800 words
Yes.
for free to read, right?
Exactly.
Little
And
Vella
that's a
ad there.
serial program, so I think we're going to talk about that. That's
Yeah,
fun.
we'll get to that. And you've referred to yourself, at least recently, as a dilettante.
I am a dilettante.
And that by that you mean jack of all trades or just someone who gets
Jack of
distracted?
certain trades.
Mm.
So right now I'm doing art, writing, well, writing mostly,
Mm-hmm.
writing, art, and music.
Wow, impressive. So
And I
here we
bake. I'm baking more.
baking's good. I must
Yeah,
admit that.
yeah.
Let's go to question. The first actual question is these I came up with based on looking around. They're not probably the greatest questions, but they're definitely not the same old questions. What is a good story to you? Is it the characters, description, scenery, or some surprise? In your case, might be a mystery, but
Well, I do write mysteries, but with my short stories are not usually mysteries. Well, it's all for me. It's all about character,
mhm.
and it's all about a character struggling to get something that he wants or she wants. So it's
Conflict.
a conflict, and that they say conflict is characterization, and I agree with that. So it's putting someone in hot water and then seeing what happens.
Ah,
And that can be done in anything. It can be done in a romance or a mystery or sci-fi or speculative fiction or anything. But it is about character for me. It's always about character
hmm.
and putting them in hot water.
Okay. Next question. Okay. Do you think your best writing was in your short stories? And by that, I mean as in when you first started writing and learning how to write.
Well, I my first story was a novel. I did write a
Wow.
novel, and
Wow.
actually, that was my worst writing because I was just starting out. I didn't know what to do. I didn't. I was just. It's not. It was terrible. It was terrible. But out of that first novel, I took a chapter and I made it a short story that was published.
Hmm.
So I started it with a novel, but then from that novel, which was not very poorly written, I did hone a short story out of it, which was published. And then I started writing short stories. So I started writing a novel, then I went away from it, then I went into short story writing, and now I'm doing both. I do novels and short stories and novellas. So I'm doing all of them
Wow.
right now.
And kind of related to this was has the passion to write increased or decreased over time? Probably comes and goes.
Well, that I'm not a I write. I get ideas and I write some and then I put it back. I put it down and then I years can go by before I finish anything, and months can go by before I write anything.
Hmm.
Now with short, it depends on what project I'm working on. A lot of times with short stories, I start and finish them within anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. So there's something when I start, I usually stay with it. And then the novels, I mean, I've written novels. I'm working on one novel now that I started in 2005.
Wow. Wow.
So, I let a lot of time I wasn't working on it the whole time. I was working on other things. And the thing is, I work on a lot of, besides novels and short stories and novellas, I do nonfiction as well.
Hmm.
I have books on writing and books on meditation. I have Spanish and English books. I have art books because I do a lot of art now too. So I also have books on art, my art,
Wow.
picture books,
Wow.
and then yeah. So there's a lot of different things I do besides writing fiction.
Thank goodness for SD drives and Google Drive, huh? I've just got to
Yes,
sit on the back burner that long.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're always there, waiting, calling to me.
Our next question is, has your writing been affected by your early development? For example, school, home life, and if that's true, which it probably is, in what ways?
Well, yes, it
Mm.
has been. Now, I grew up. My parents came from Spain, so we were an immigrant family, and they did not. They read the newspaper like cover to cover every evening, but it was, and they stressed education. But we didn't have a lot of books at the house. Um, and in high school, by the time I went to high school, I went to a private girls' school, and my worst subject in high school was English. I barely passed it. So I did, and I barely passed two subjects, English and typing. And so, I had a bad taste in my mouth for that. And so I didn't pursue writing for a while after that. That being said, there were periods in that I remember, like when I was in grammar school, we were asked to write a prayer. And
Mm.
I wrote a prayer in very quick order, like in 10 minutes, and it won a prize. It won a prize. And
Wow.
I did write a short story, kind of a short story in um, in high school. Um, and my mother read it and she was like, "You wrote this?" And she was shocked that I wrote it. So, and I always was, my friends always said, "You write great letters," so I was getting feedback in odd places, but not for fiction. And I mean, I had thoughts that I just wasn't a writer. I was always much better in math. So my schooling, my home life didn't. I mean, I wasn't one of those kids that start reading at 3 years of age and start writing their first book at 10. A lot of people, I mean, great writers are often like that, and they're obsessed with writing from a very young age. I started writing seriously after I got out of graduate school. I was 40 years old. That's when I started to write the first novel. And that was kind of accidental because I went to graduate school and I had young children. I was divorced, raising the kids on my own, working full time. And I had just finished my master's program where I did a lot of writing. I had to do a lot of papers and things like that. So I started like easing into that whole thing of not being afraid or not feeling I couldn't do it in when I was going to graduate school. And I also bought a computer, which
Mm.
made things so much easier. I bought one of those cow ones. Which one were those? They had the cow, uh, I can't remember the name of that computer. It was really expensive, but anyways, so I bought a computer with a printer, and that's when I started. I had choice. I wanted to either go to graduate school for my doctorate in social work, or go to law school, or write a novel. So I just chose to write a novel because I didn't have money or time to do anything else.
Wow.
And that's when I started my beginning. I started in 1990. In
Hmm.
1996, I joined a writers group, and that really solidified my writing a lot because I was with other writers, and there was a support group, and it was really interesting to be with other writers.
So having your writing critiqued like that and detailed was helpful.
Yeah, and then I started, and or else I joined a lot of other small writers groups that were all working on novels, and that was hugely helpful in
Hey,
my development.
are you currently in a writer's group?
Yes, I am. I have
Mm.
two people come into the house.
Mm-hmm.
Three people, two people. Yeah.
There's three of you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's three of us all together.
I
We're all
dropped
working
out.
on novels. Yeah, you dropped out. Couldn't
I
cut it.
couldn't take
Sorry.
the harshness of it.
Pressure.
Here we go. Oh boy. If you had enjoyed the freedom to do so, in other words, you were not hampered, my words, not yours. In other words, you had more free time by family and the job, would you have wished to start writing at a younger age?
Well, that's interesting because no, I don't think so because
Mm,
I really wasn't interested at a younger age. And it
yeah.
is work. I
Mm,
mean, it wasn't like a natural, it wasn't natural to me to be a writer.
mm,
I learned along the way. And um, the reason why why I was interested in writing is really, it's why I went into social work. It's about why people do what they do.
mm,
It's learning, it's kind of human nature. That's what
mm,
draw me to writing, to stories about human nature. It's not so much about the act of writing
mm,
or, world building or, manipulating characters. It's about, looking at someone, a character, and saying and putting them in, as I said, hot water and seeing what they do.
mm.
The other thing is, it's very interesting is you do when you write, which of course I never realized any of this. It's a lot about me, which I had no idea. But when I look at my stories, how the stories are told and what their challenges are, uh, very similar to way maybe my challenges are, or a metaphor for my own world. So there is that aspect to it too.
Well, I think you answered part two of this, or do you think being hampered, as in less free time, has enhanced your writing via life experience? I think because you had more time
Yeah.
to actually live, you got more.
Right,
Mm,
exactly.
okay.
I bought an electric typewriter before I started writing, before I had married, before I had children. I was in my 20s. I bought an electric typewriter. I thought that would make things easier because I guess I did want to write because people said about my letter writing was so good. So
Hmm.
I wrote a paragraph. I can't even remember what it was about. I put it in the typewriter, put the typewriter on a desk in the living room, and it sat there for years. The
Wow.
same typewriter, hooked up, plugged in with the same piece of paper, and
Wow.
I never went beyond that.
Well, that probably needs some dusting.
Yeah.
The next next question. Okay, this is the long one, and probably not that good, but I found it interesting for some reason. In an essay by George Orwell, who we all know wrote Animal Farm in 1984, right? Probably
Right.
1984 more than anything, which seems to not go away. It's a story that keeps continuing, as
Hmm.
Edward Snowden and others would point out to us. He was
Yeah.
called, his real name was Eric Blair, I think. I think.
Wow. I didn't know that.
But the little essay that somebody, a YouTube sub of mine, mentioned, so I went and read it, but I think I read it before. It's called Why I Write. And
Mm.
he discusses why he became or was a writer. So I have a little link there, but I'll put that in the notes so you can find it if you want to read it. It's
Oh
just
yeah, that sounds
a small
interesting. Yeah.
PDF.
Uh-huh.
So he broke it down, as it says here, and I'm saying not that motive behind any creative activity matters, but Orwell mentions four motives for writing that he came to
Mhm.
after years. And the very first one he says everyone should admit to is sheer egotism. You're doing it either to become famous, get recognized because you think you're clever, or you're just determined, or they're just determined to live their own life. Now that one's I'm a little confused by. But what do you think about that as a motive for writing?
I
Here we
would
go.
say that is a very male motive for writing, and
Wow.
I would argue that that's certainly not my reason for writing. If anything, I mean, it brings you down. I mean, you think you're some great writer, you're special, and you read your stuff and you're being realistic. It kind of brings you down a few notches until you get better at it. Now, clever fame, fortune, recognition. I think I can't, for myself, that wasn't the reason. The reason was a challenge to write something that I felt was good enough and to put it out there.
Hmm.
And whatever happened, happened. I mean, I
Hmm.
would love people to love my work, and I think people do.
Hmm.
But if they don't, it's okay. But I have to. It's all about in a egotistic way. It's about me, and it's also for me.
Hmm.
And but it has nothing. It's all internal. It's not external. It's not fame. It's not recognition. I think I am sort of clever, but I mean, I just think I am clever.
Now, I
Um,
condensed these down. They're a little bit longer, some of them. So
yeah.
I kind of plopped out the things. So maybe I
Yep.
miss a point or two in there.
Well,
But
sheer egotism. I don't think a
okay.
lot of writers would agree with that, but some would. But
Okay.
I don't agree with that personally for
Okay.
myself.
Here's number 2 of his motives: aesthetic enthusiasm. In other words, you're just excited about the beauty of words, perception of beauty in the external world, or on the other hand, in words and their right arrangement. I think by right he means it's pleasing to read, or it grabs you in
Well,
some way and takes you away from you escape a
yeah,
little bit. And then
yeah.
he went on to say, this is the longest one I got here: pleasure in the impact of one sound on another, and the firmness of good prose or the rhythm of a good story, and a desire to share an experience which one feels is valuable and ought to not be to be missed.
Well, I'm not sure about all those points, but aesthetic enthusiasm, I think, is definitely because I read a sentence, I can get very excited about a sentence or a paragraph, um, especially when you're working on something I've worked on days on a paragraph, and then I finally get it, and it's like it's like I want to celebrate, and there is an aestheticness to writing,
Okay.
and you can definitely be enthusiastic. I can be enthusiastic about that when I read someone's writing that is just sings. It's it's like listening to a wonderful piece of music or seeing a beautiful piece of art. If I see writing that really is beautiful, it knocks me out. Now there's just to as one thing that I remember more recently, Truman Capote. I never read his books. I may have read one of his books. I'm not sure, but I recently, in the last 5 years, read his first short story in the New Yorker. It was
Mm.
published when he was 17 or 18, 19 years old. And I mean, my jaw dropped how someone of that age could write like that. It was
Mm.
just shocking to me. And there's a lot of writers that, I mean, I love writers for storytelling. And then there's other writers. It's just the sheer language is just breathtaking. So,
Mm.
so
Okay.
I can understand that part, aesthetic enthusiasm.
Okay. On his motive number 3 was historical impulse, like your own legacy, I guess,
Yeah.
posterity, the desire to clarify or see, maybe define the truth. You're trying to express that impulse in words and stories.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now, uh, like it will, books, when you write them, they will be around, especially now with, everything being stored electronically. They could be around for centuries unless
Exactly.
there's a major book burning or
Deleting.
purging of books.
Yeah.
Yeah. But stories are interesting. I'm not saying mine are, but they are a moment in time, especially if you write a contemporary fiction. It can tell a lot about the times.
Hmm.
It can also tell you a lot about historical times if it's historical fiction. So writing is an important aspect for this historical significance. It does have a historical significance.
Okay. Uh, let's go. His fourth one is, this is the one he didn't feel so strong about, I believe, was a political purpose. You're writing either to enlighten or expand other people, or you get this strong desire to fix something and you think your story 1984 is going to fix it before it happens.
Yeah.
Oops, in
Yeah,
his
I think
case.
that could be. Some writers are definitely in that position,
Okay.
or feel that way about their work. Now, mine, I mostly write mysteries. I'm writing a few non-mystery. The short stories are more literary type, but that's about the times. Um, I try not to have. I mean, my characters do have a political lean. I'm not political, but they're. Uh, I don't tend to write about someone who's on either any extreme. Like
Right.
I don't write religious people that are religious and some people want them to be more religious or less religious. I don't write those kind of books.
You're
It's
not
just
out
kind
to.
of like trying to. I write about people who are just trying to get through their day.
Uh, you're
That's
not
it.
out to fix or enlighten anyone. You're not the Buddha of
No,
writing. Okay.
no, no,
Okay.
no.
Let's see what's here. And he did have something I liked in the little essay where he says good prose is like a window pane.
Yeah,
A lot of ways
that's
to look at
true.
that.
Pros and just look through and see things that's out there beyond yourself that has clarity, and it's reading a story is just a wonderful. Well, it's like I mean, people don't read as much as they used to, but you
Yeah.
watch a movie, you listen to a radio show. I mean, that's what writing is. It's just telling stories,
Yeah.
and it's so much a part of human nature of who we are as humans that it's it's just a natural aspect of being human is telling a story. Everyone is a storyteller. You can think of your family of origin or my family of origin, and at the dinner table, someone tells a story about what happened at work or on their way home or at school, and people listen. They listen to those stories, and sometimes they learn from those stories, and then they tell their own stories.
Oops. Oops. Sorry. You went away there for a second. I brought you
That's
back.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Now you'll be glad to see that it says end of Orwell's motives. So we can go
Oh,
back to
okay.
normal people questions. If anyone is new to your writing, what would you recommend reading first and
Oh, that's a good.
why?
Well, I'd recommend either one of my mysteries that are novel length. If someone likes,
Paloma?
Paloma is a woman. I'll tell you. I'll give you the elevator spiel
Thank you.
about. Paloma is a woman with three identities. Um, Someone's after her, but she doesn't know which identity they're after. So she has to revisit her past to draw out the murderer. That's my first novel, and it's a great novel. And it is. I'm using it also as step word for more of those novels, more of those characters. Haven't quite gotten to that yet, though. And then the second one is another mystery, but it's a cozy mystery, not for everybody, but it's a little old lady mystery that has gotten wonderful reviews. And it's about a woman in her 80s who unfortunately finds her paperboy dead in her backyard.
Wow.
And the police say it's a drug overdose, but she knows that Jason would never do drugs. So she is going to find out who and why that child was murdered.
That's the book Murder in the Pachysandra, right?
Murder in the Pachysandra, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so those are two of the ones you would recommend. I may have,
Mm-hmm.
because I like short stories, I probably would have thrown in or said Thirst. Is that the one?
Oh, Thirst. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
They have Rented Rooms and Thirst. And I'll be coming out with another one
Oh, yeah,
shortly.
Rented Rooms. That's right. I get them
Yeah,
confused.
yeah. Rented Rooms is my first novel, my first book that I've ever published. And I opened it up not too long ago just to see, should I should I unpublish it? How bad is it? But it's actually quite good. It's quite good. I mean, it's held up. It's held up quite nicely.
Nice. Good.
Hmm.
Are you currently writing? I know the
Yes,
answer
I
to that.
am. I'm
Yes,
working
you are.
on
Mm.
the second story, the second book on Murder in the Pachysandra. It's called a Hattie Moon mystery. The
Mm-hmm.
old lady is called Hattie Moon, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on her second book, which is Howie in Love, and
Mm.
that's one of the things I'm working on right now. It's on Vella also, so
Ah,
if you read the first book, you could start reading the second book in Vella. It's not finished, but I'm working on it. Then
okay.
I'm also working on I'm working on a lot of things right now. I'm working on The Cure. It's an international thriller, and that's also on Vella, and it's
Mm.
also part of the writers group. And that's something I started in 2005.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of interesting characters
You
in
might have
that.
to update that one a little bit, given international changes and
Oh, I have, yeah,
interwebs and
that's
all
exactly
that.
what,
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I have to do.
Any
Everything's changed.
okay? Any thoughts you want to share? Since you mentioned Vella, any thoughts you want to share about Kindle Vella? There's a wide open topic.
Yeah. Well,
other
think
than
of it.
the bonus money.
Isn't that what it's all about?
No, I don't think that's what it's
Oh
supposed to
no,
be all
really?
about. But
So
it's
yeah,
nice, isn't it?
yeah. I mean,
Hello, you don't even have to write. Just slap some words up there.
well, you
600
got
of
to
them to be
write, but you
precise.
could Vella. I keep talking about it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Vella is this new program with KDP, Kindle,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and what you do is it's serial. So you write minimum 600 words whenever you get to it, and whenever you want to write it, and you put it up there. It's got to be at least um, 10 episodes, but it can be a novel length, or I guess go into, keep going and going and going. And they pay you to submit your work. Not they don't pay you for how many reads you get or anything like that, but they're paying you to write and to submit your writing, and it's great. I mean,
It's
um,
unheard of.
it's unprecedented, is what it's doing.
They
Now,
call it a
I think
bonus, though, is what they're calling it, a
it's called a
bonus.
bonus,
Because
and
you
they
would
don't know
get
how long.
paid. I think somebody estimated, and he writes a lot, that he would have gotten each month maybe $5 if it just went by the tokens and the reads and the likes and
Right.
all that.
Mhm.
When the bonus disappears, he said he would be crying because he'd miss out on that money.
Yeah, it's interesting. Who knows what Amazon is doing, why they're doing this, but anyways, it's a windfall for writers. If you write at all, you
Slap it
want to make
up there.
money. Just it's easy to do. It's not hard to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a good deal. It's unheard
It's
of.
a
It's
very
a once in a lifetime maybe.
Yeah,
So
it's a very good deal.
so let's see what's next. Is there anything else, I should say, you would like to say before we end? Also note that I will include links to your stuff on Amazon, like your author page and whatever else you want me to include. That's why I included etc. But is there anything that you would like to say before we go?
Well, a couple of things actually.
Oh my goodness.
When do I get to interview you?
Yeah. To interview someone, they have to have had something that they've
Published?
done other than have
Other than
children.
four short stories on Vella?
Yeah, other
Or
than that, yeah. So,
you
well,
need,
sure, maybe someday. Maybe
yeah.
someday.
And you're also, well, there's a lot of things you do that are creative. So, I mean, you could definitely be interviewed for a lot of the
Yeah,
things
it
you do.
might
You're also,
last about 5 minutes instead of 28 minutes, though.
oh, really?
We're at 28
Um,
minutes right now.
yeah.
Mm.
Writing is something, as I said earlier, is something you don't need anything. You don't need any special equipment. You don't need a piano, a violin. You don't need art materials. You know how much art materials can cost once you buy the canvases, or I mean, all you need is a paper and a pencil, and to tell a story. And I mean, if you're writing fiction or anything, or poetry, or screenplay, or anything, so it's something that you can do. You don't need to invest a lot, just your time and energy. And I would suggest. Uh, the thing that made the most difference for me is certain books made a difference, but being in a writers group is really critical. And I say this a lot to a lot of people. And if you can join a writers group in your area or start one in your local library, that'll really, it's really nice talking with other writers
There's a bunch of
because
online ones too,
yeah. But the personal, I think when you're in person, it's better in a lot of ways.
except for the
Uh,
viruses.
well, yeah, but that's changing.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's changing. But when you're a writer, you're in your head a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing as boring as being with people that that don't write, and they don't really want to hear it. They don't really want to hear your stories or what you're writing or anything like that, because it's like telling about a movie. You go to a dinner party and someone tells you about a movie, talks about a movie. You want to see the movie. You want to be there. You don't want to have someone tell you
Yeah,
the story.
yeah, that's true.
So so with writers, everyone, it's not just a story, but it's the writing, it's where they're getting their ideas from, it's also honing the skill. So it is really nice to be in a small group of writers. And actually, I don't care where you live. They're out there, those writers. They just are hidden, or, they're not very social because they're writers. They're kind of quiet and keeping to
Well, I
themselves.
guess that would lead me to a bonus question, which is, what if you have absolutely zero desire to publish your stuff anywhere? You almost like you're just writing in a journal for yourself. The stories are for you. They're not for anybody else. Does that still count as a writer and an author?
Oh, that counts as a writer and an author for sure. Yeah, I mean, there are writers that's what they did. I mean, they wrote books, but then a lot of them, they just quieted down and wrote their memoirs or something privately. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that counts as a writer. Now,
Yeah,
would they want to come out and talk about it? I don't know. Maybe they would.
maybe.
Memoirs are very popular. People do work on memoirs, and that's being a writer. And everyone's got a great story to tell, if not many, many stories to tell about their lives. There was this thing they do in Europe, and it's a great idea, and it could be done here, where people meet. I don't know if they meet at coffee houses, coffee cafes,
Mm-hmm.
cafeteria cafes, and they're encouraged to sit next to someone and talk to them about their life, exchange life stories.
Hmm.
And that's a great idea, because it is all about story. And as I said earlier, stories are just part of being human, and so you get in touch with that kind of thing through writing.
Okay.
Or it can be it can be a storytelling, an oral tradition as well, obviously, with fairy tales and all that sort of thing.
Well, for my part here, I'll say thank you for letting me interview you. And,
You're welcome.
and I'll say thank you to this overpriced, slightly hard to learn how to use eCam. That if you can afford it, my gosh, get it. If you want to put something on YouTube, if it took you 2 minutes to do, it's done in 2 minutes. This took us
Wow.
32 minutes. And as soon as I hit that button over there, which we're going to wait on, but as soon as I do, it's there. You could go
Wow.
watch it. You don't wait for anything to happen. It's done.
Wow.
It's
You're
amazing, but
spoiled.
it's way overpriced. Way overpriced.
Well,
So
how
let me
much is
get
it?
rid of these notes here and
Well,
let
how
your.
much is it?
It is $400 per
Whoa.
year.
400 a year.
Per year.
Oh well.
Now,
I think
wow.
that prices a lot of people out of the market.
I think it does. And only on Apple and only on an iMac.
Oh wow.
And yeah, wow. I was right.
Yeah, that's a little steep for a lot of people.
That's, oof.
Yeah.
But they're all over it.
I'll just use
Simple.
my phone and go on YouTube.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
So we're going to hang here for a little bit. And I can't guarantee what happens, but I'm going to do this ahead of time. So if there's something you want to say, go ahead and say it, like peace or whatever.
No, yeah, thanks for the interview. It was fun.
Thank you. And
Appreciate
I'll
it.
say peace. And then we're going to hang because there's no telling when this ends. That's its little flaw so far. So I'm going to let it
Okay.
go and babble. So I'll get cut off at some